Good afternoon, Falcons. It's Mr. F here. I hope you all had a great holiday weekend, Easter weekend. I know we did here in the Fairbrother residence. Hope everyone is still safe out there, and really looking forward to seeing you guys hopefully in the near future. I'm going to continue reading from Holes. The last time we left off, Stanley, if you remember, was digging one of his holes, and he came across something what he thought was pretty cool. And it wasn't a fossil, it was something different. And he didn't know what to do with it, but he ended up giving it to X-Ray. And so now, this is the fallout of that, okay? So we're going to read a couple chapters today, starting at chapter 14. That night, as Stanley lay in his scratchy and smelly cot, he tried to figure out what he could have done differently, but there was nothing he could do. For once in his unlucky life, he was in the right place at the right time, and it still didn't help him. "You got it?" he asked X-Ray the next morning at breakfast. X-Ray looked at him with half-opened eyes behind his dirty glasses. "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." "You know," said Stanley, the thing I gave you." "No, I don't know what you're talking about," X-Ray snapped. "Just leave me alone, okay? I don't want to talk to you." Stanley didn't say another word. Mr. Sir marched the boys out to the lake, chewing sunflower seeds along the way and spitting out the shells. He scraped the ground with the boot of his heel, his boot heel, to mark where each boy was supposed to dig. Stanley stamped down on the back of the blade of the shovel, piercing the hard, dry earth. He couldn't figure out why X-Ray snapped at him. If he wasn't going to produce the tube, why did he make Stanley give it to him? Was he just going to keep it? The tube was gold in color, but Stanley didn't think it was real gold. The water truck came a little after sunrise, and Stanley finished his last drop of water and stepped out of his hole. At this time of the day, Stanley sometimes could see some distant hills or mountains on the other side of the lake. They were only visible for a short while and would soon disappear behind the haze of heat and dirt. The truck stopped and the dust cloud drifted past it. X-Ray took his place in the front of the line. Mr. Pedansky filled his canteen. "Thanks, Mom," X-Ray said, and he didn't mention the tube. Mr. Pedansky filled all the canteens, then climbed back into the cab of the pickup. He still had to bring water to Group E. Stanley could see them digging about 200 yards away. "Mr. Pedansky!" X-Ray shouted from his hole. "Wait, Mr. Pedansky! I think I might have found something!" Then all the boys followed Mr. Pedansky as he walked over to X-Ray's hole. Stanley could see the gold tube sticking out of some dirt on the end of X-Ray's shovel. Mr. Pedansky examined it and took a long look at its flat bottom. "I think the warden's going to like this." "Does X-Ray get the day off?" asked Squid. "Just keep digging until someone says otherwise," Mr. Pedansky said. Then he smiled. "But if I were you, Rex, I wouldn't dig too hard." Stanley watched the cloud of dust move across the lake to the cabin beneath the trees. The boys in Group E were just going to have to wait for their water. It didn't take long for the pickup truck to return. Mr. Pedansky stepped out of the cab. A tall woman with red hair stepped out of the passenger side. She looked even taller than she was since Stanley was down in his hole. She wore a black cowboy hat and black cowboy boots, which were studded with turquoise stones. The sleeves of her shirt were rolled up and her arms were covered with freckles, as was her face. She walked right up to X-Ray. "This where you found it?" Yes, ma'am." "Good work, and your good work will be rewarded." She turned to Mr. Pedansky. "Drive X-Ray back to camp. Let him take a double shower and give him some clean clothes. But first, I want you to fill everyone's canteen." "Oh, I just filled them a little while ago," said Mr. Pedansky. The warden stared at him really hard like. "Excuse me?" she said, and her voice was soft. "Oh, I just filled them when Rex—" "Excuse me?" the warden said again. "Did I ask you when you filled them last?" "No, but it's just—" "Excuse me?" Mr. Pedansky stopped talking right then and there. The warden wiggled her finger for him to come next to him. "It's hot, and it's only going to get hotter, she said. Now, these fine boys have been working hard. Don't you think it might be possible that they might have taken a drink since you last filled their canteens? Mr. Pendansky just stood there and said nothing. The warden turned to Stanley. Caveman, will you come here, please? Stanley was surprised she knew his name. He had never even seen her before. Until she stepped out of the truck, he didn't even know the warden was a woman. He nervously went toward her. Mr. Pendansky and I have been having a discussion. Have you taken a drink since Mr. Pendansky last filled your canteen? Stanley didn't want to cause any trouble for Mr. Pendansky. Oh, I still got plenty left, he said. Excuse me? He stopped. Yeah, I did drink. Yeah, I drank some. Thank you. May I see your canteen, please? Stanley handed it to her. Her fingernails were painted dark red. She gently shook the canteen, letting the water swish inside the plastic container. Do you hear the empty spaces? She asked. Yes, said Mr. Pendansky. Then fill it, she said. And the next time I tell you to do something, I expect you to do it without questioning my authority. If it's too much trouble for you to fill canteens, I'll give you a shovel. Perhaps you can dig some holes. And the caveman can fill the canteens. She turned back to Stanley. I don't think that'd be too much trouble for you, now would it be? Now would it? No, said Stanley. So what's it going to be? She asked Mr. Pendansky. Do you want to fill canteens, or maybe you want to dig instead? I'll fill the canteens, ma'am, said Mr. Pendansky. Thank you. Now we're on to chapter 15. Mr. Pendansky filled those canteens. The warden got a pitchfork out of the back of the pickup truck. She poked it through X-Ray's dirt pile to see if anything else might have been buried in there as well. Now, after you drop off X-Ray, I want you to bring back 3 wheelbarrows, she said. X-Ray got in the pickup truck. And as the truck pulled away, he leaned out the window and waved. Zero, said the warden, I want you to take over X-Ray's hole. She seemed to know that Zero was the fastest digger. Armpit and Squid, you'll keep digging where you have been, she said. But you're each going to have a helper. Zigzag, you help Armpit. Magnet, you help Squid. And Caveman, you'll work with Zero. We're going to dig the dirt twice. Zero will dig it out of the hole, and Caveman will carefully shovel it into the wheelbarrow. Zigzag will do the same for Armpit, and the same with Magnet and Squid. We don't want to miss anything. If either of you find something, you'll both get the rest of the day off, and a double shower. When the wheelbarrows are full, you are to dump them away from this area. We don't want any dirt piles to get in the way. The warden remained at the site for the remainder of the day, along with Mr. Pendansky and Mr. Sir, who showed up a little while later. Occasionally, Mr. Sir would leave to take water to the other group of campers, but otherwise, he and the water truck stayed parked there. The warden saw to it that nobody in Group D was ever thirsty. Stanley did as he was told. He carefully looked through all the dug-up dirt as Zero shoveled it to him. And he knew he wasn't going to find anything, though. It was easier than digging his own hole. When the wheelbarrow was full, he took it a good distance away before dumping it. The warden couldn't keep still. She kept walking around, looking over the boys' shoulders, and sticking her pitchfork through the dirt piles. You're doing just fine. Just fine, boys. Keep up the good work. After a while, she told the boys to switch places, so that Stanley, Zigzag, and Magnet dug in the holes, and Zero, Armpit, and Squid shoveled the excavated dirt into the wheelbarrows. After lunch, Zero took over the digging again, and Stanley returned to the wheelbarrow. There's no hurry, said the warden, she said several times. The main thing is to not miss anything. The boys dug until each hole was well over 6 feet deep and wide. Still, it was easier for the boys to dig a 6-foot hole than it was for one boy to dig a 5-foot hole. All right. That's enough for today, said the warden. I've waited this long. I can wait another day. Mr. Sir drove her back to the cabin. I wonder how how she knew all our names, Stanley said as he walked back to the compound. Man, she watches us all the time, said Zigzag. She's got hidden microphones and cameras all over the place. Man, she's got them hidden in the tents, the rec room, probably even the shower, too. The shower? Asked Stanley. He wondered if Zigzag was just being paranoid. Man, those cameras are tiny, said Armpit. No bigger than a toenail on your toe. Stanley had his doubts about that. He didn't think they could make cameras that small. Microphones? Maybe. He realized that was why X-Ray didn't want to talk to him about the gold tube at breakfast. X-Ray was afraid that the warden might have been listening. One thing was certain. They weren't just digging to build character. Oh, no way. They were definitely looking for something. And whatever they were looking for, they were looking in the wrong place. Stanley gazed out across the lake, toward the spot where he'd been digging yesterday, and when he found the gold tube, he dug the hole into his memory. All right, guys, that was 2 chapters today. I'll pick up where we left off on chapter 16 tomorrow. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I hope you guys are continuing to enjoy the whole story as a whole, and it's one of my favorites. Yeah, nothing else to say, but I'll see you guys tomorrow, and just know that we all here at Forest Hills, we definitely miss our kids and our students, and we look forward to seeing you guys when this is all over. See ya. Bye.